Am I the a-hole for not letting my brother have my house for his wedding? I have younger brothers, and one of them I've always gotten along with really well. Until his girlfriend came along. It was a gradual change in our relationship. But I think my brother made a mistake of making some fair/unfair comparisons between her and me. For example, I've overheard him and his girlfriend in a heated argument when she was trying to quietly hiss angrily at him for praising his sister's cooking, my cooking, more than her cooking. But it is their relationship, and I haven't ever gotten involved in those niggles, even though I am aware of them. Anyway, they got engaged recently, and while my brother's family is here, all of her family needs to travel here for the wedding. When they got engaged and came over to our house to break the news to us, we congratulated them, and then my brother said that they had something to ask us. His fiancée then asked if we could move out and live with my parents for 3 weeks, while they used our house for her family to stay in, both before and after the wedding. I have a lovely big house that I live in close to the city with my husband and 5 children. Plenty of rooms, pool and gardens which we have spent years establishing. My kids catch the bus to school from here, a 10-minute bus ride, and I work from home, and my husband works about 10 minutes drive away. My parents, on the other hand, live another 40 minutes away on rural acreage. And while we have stayed at their house every now and then with our children, we have never stayed more than a weekend. Anyway, after I got over the initial shock of her request, with my brother just sitting there nodding his head, I said no, it wouldn't be possible, though I would love to be able to help them with their wedding in other ways, and I suggested we could host a family gathering at ours. I tried to explain that it is not suitable for my family with 5 kids to stay with my parents for 3 weeks. We have school, work logistics, and my parents are getting older, and probably would not be able to cope with 5 noisy kids around all the time. It did not go down very well at all. My brother started angrily telling me that I was being very rude and unhelpful, and that this was only for 3 weeks and would save them a lot of money accommodating all of her family. His fiancée walked out yelling behind her that she always knew I thought myself better than her. My brother followed her out, and my husband and I were left to sit there, in shock at what just transpired. Am I being selfish for not wanting to do what they requested and move my family out of our home for 3 weeks? Edit. I should add that my brother knows that a couple years ago, my husband, my kids, and I willingly moved out of our house and into a caravan to travel around the country for 4 months. So I can see why he would think it would be okay for us to move out for 3 weeks to my parents. He probably thinks we could have a little bit of a staycation, and my parents' property has far more space than what we had when we were traveling around in a caravan. But him not having kids yet, he doesn't understand the school/work/aging parent side of things. So yes, I reckon he could see me as being quite selfish for not wanting to give up my convenient lifestyle at a time of his choosing. Now for the top comments. Only 3 weeks? Only 5 kids? Only your home? Only for some strangers you've never met? Why aren't you agreeing immediately? That sounds so reasonable. They are entitled jackwagons. This is why hotels and Airbnb exist. Not day home. Not day home. Who knows what an entire wing of a family could do or damage while you're roughly an hour away for nearly a month? Damages they wouldn't bother helping repair because we're family now. Sounds like maybe sister-in-law lied about having a nice house, etc. with her husband-to-be. But the reality is, it's your house. Why else would they need you gone for so long, and why are they letting her family stay? To be so dismissive of the comfort of your parents, your brother's own parents, and the issue this could cause you and your children. Growing children need sleep. If you do this, they'd have to wake up more than an hour earlier to get to school and such on time. Also in some states, letting them stay for 3 weeks is legally giving them permission to be considered occupants of the house, and you need a heck of a lot of paperwork to evict multiple people. Sister-in-law's reaction to her calm refusal is also a bit suspect. Immediately accusing you of thinking so highly of yourself? I think someone's projecting. Even if they calm down and apologize, don't do it. This is a headache waiting to happen, and you offering to help them in other ways was more than enough. They're entitled. I had the same thoughts about the fiancé lying about the house. She sounds like a peach. Yes, yes, yes on the occupancy issue. Opie needs to check out what the local laws are to have that knowledge in her back pocket. This comment is right on it. Not today home. What the holy hell? Not today home. She has some nerve. And your brother isn't much better. If any more conversation comes up, just tell them no, and there will be no further discussion. Not today home. They ask, they got an answer. If they had asked if they could live with you for 3 weeks, I could have seen where they were coming from. But asking your huge family to just go and live with your parents because they said so? Yeah, no. Not today home. Since when is your home a hotel anyone else is entitled to use? Besides, I wouldn't do it even if your parents lived down the street. Do you know these people? How can they guarantee that your things would be respected? How are they going to pay for any damage/repairs? Next story. Am I the a-hole for walking out on a bachelorette party when I'm the maid of honor? I went to a bachelorette party in Atlantic City. After a 4-hour drive, the bride, we'll call her Melissa, could not be bothered to get out of her seat and give me a hug or introduce me to the other girls. No one made any effort to get to know me at dinner. When the bill came, the girls said we'd split it evenly, which wasn't fair to me because I don't drink alcohol, and they all ordered multiple drinks. There were 11 girls, and I didn't want to be the only one who didn't want to split the bill. So I ended up having to pay $65 for my $13 meal. Then we went to a nightclub. When we got out around 2 a.m., my ears were ringing so much. I couldn't sleep that night. Despite not sleeping, I got up early Saturday because we were going to an escape room at noon. I made the entire house breakfast so the girls could eat quickly and we could make it on time. But they overslept and we missed it. Then we got brunch, and the ride over was a nightmare. I should mention I was appointed designated driver. Half the girls took an Uber since my car only seats 5 people, and the other half went with me, including Melissa. It was storming in AC, and the streets were flooded. I'm talking water up to my thighs. I didn't think my old car would make it. The girls could see what kind of car I drive. I decided to complain about how they can't file their taxes jointly with their husbands because their combined income would be over $400,000, all while I chauffeured them. Not only was splitting the bill unfair to me because I don't drink, but since I was driving everyone around, I was the only one paying for gas and parking fees. They insisted on splitting the brunch bill too, so I had to pay $45 for my $15 lunch. After the rain stopped, we went to the boardwalk to do a scavenger hunt. Melissa chose the teams, and she didn't even put me on her team. I'm her maid of honor, and yet she didn't want to spend that extra time with her best friend. Then the girls wanted to get drinks on the boardwalk, where I was again excluded from conversation. I was the only quirky girl amongst sorority types. We were scheduled for a booze cruise with an arrival time of 5:30 p.m., so as it started nearing 5, I said we should get going. But the girls wanted to finish their drinks, and we had to scramble to get out of there. Again, half the girls took an Uber, and the other half went with me, but we couldn't find my car. Melissa started flipping out about missing the cruise, so the girls took an Uber and ditched me in the parking garage. At this point, I broke down and started sobbing. I drove back to the Airbnb, $450 per person, and packed up my stuff. I left around 9 p.m. and drove through the night. No one texted me to see if I made it home. Melissa hasn't talked to me since. I guess she's mad at me for leaving. Am I the a-hole for leaving? Did I overreact? Not today home. They took advantage of you all night, and then had the audacity to ditch you in a parking garage after you have been footing the bill for half of the transportation and part of their meals beyond what you actually owed. If I were you and she doesn't reach out, I wouldn't even go to the wedding based on how she has treated you. You deserve better and an apology. They've essentially been treating you as a tag-along chauffeur. Thank you. I completely agree with you. At this point, I think I will still go to the wedding though, because I already paid for my bridesmaid/maid of honor dress and my hair appointment. I may as well get the fancy wedding dinner at the very least. I'm not an entitled person at all, but so far I've gotten nothing out of this and have just been used and discarded. If you go, do your thing, and get your meal until you got all you need, then dip out. You were used and used and used. Time for you to be your own advocate. Alternatively, if you have another close friend nearby, maybe consider using your dress and fancy hair and go out for a nice evening/dinner with a friend who actually appreciates you instead of the wedding. That way nothing goes to waste, and you don't have to be around people who only want you around if you can be their step stool. Not stay home. The fact that she didn't even bother to check up on you after ditching you and then having you disappear into the night shows that she doesn't really care. And this is one of those friendships where you might have just outgrown each other. Thank you for your comment. I do agree that we've outgrown each other. She's used me time and time again, and I'm finally putting my foot down. I'm just sick of this. I give so much to my friends, and people use me for my kindness and empathy. She doesn't care about me at all. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to apologize to my boyfriend's vegan daughter for forcing her to eat shawarma? My boyfriend, 42, father of Megan, 16, and I, 37, widow with twins, 10, have been together for 2 years now. He is awesome. We don't live together, but we see each other a lot. My girls love him, and we've quickly become one family. However, Megan and I have a bit of tension between us, but we're working on it. Last week, I've arranged a backyard cookout with family and friends. I've invited my boyfriend and Megan. He accepted the invitation, but Megan was like, cookout. Not sure. Meat and whatnot. She's 100% vegan and goes by the nickname Megan the Vegan. Anyway, she said she wasn't coming, and I said no problem. I got busy with the guests, and the main dish was grilled chicken shawarma. To my surprise, Megan showed up with my boyfriend and went straight to sit with her phone watching YouTube. He asked my boyfriend why he didn't give me the heads up, and he said he called, but clearly my phone was inside the entire time. Everyone grabbed their plates and I started serving them shawarma one by one. Then Megan showed up in front of me extending her empty plate for me to fill. I felt confused at first. I asked if she was going to have shawarma like the others, and she said, "Ew, no," and proceeded to say she expected me to have something vegan to grill. I was like, "I'm sorry, what's that?" She made a face and went on a long detailed explanation about the vegan grill recipes I could have made to include her in the gathering. I said I didn't even know she was coming, let alone know that she wanted specific vegan grill recipe. I said shawarma was all I had, and directed her towards salad/appetizers to choose from. But she pitched a hissy fit about how I made zero effort to include her in the party. Even worse, I was basically forcing her to eat shawarma, but not preparing a vegan recipe for her knowing she's vegan and can't eat meat. I argued that this wasn't true, and that it wasn't my fault she decided to show last minute and at least could have brought something to eat. She said, "Daddy called you like 100 times already, and you probably purposely avoided answering since you probably had nothing prepared for me and didn't even want me to come in the first place." She put the plate down and sat watching us eat, saying I excluded her from even sitting at the table with us, even though she herself said she didn't want to sit and watch us eat meat. It was not cool. Mood 100% ruined. She refused to speak to me or say goodbye before leaving. Just kept claiming I made her go hungry at my home and disrespected her lifestyle by directly forcing meat on her. My boyfriend said it was just miscommunication, but I stated I'm not required to cook for her. She wanted me to apologize for the poor experience, but I refused. Now for the comments. Not day home. Welcome to the teenage years. Her father should have handled her attitude. He's probably got plenty of vegan food at his home he could have brought instead of relying on OP to cater for a dietary lifestyle. She didn't know she had to provide for the event. Based on her behavior in this instance, I'm betting Megan didn't get her nickname because she's the nicest vegan. Not day home. It would be different if she had said she was coming, but since her father wasn't getting a reply, if it was that important, they could have grabbed her vegan whatever on the way. Your boyfriend sucks for not telling her to shut her mouth and quit being an insufferable brat. She could eat salad or whatever. She chose not to. That is correct, and I agree with you. Thanks for your input. Yeah, Megan the Vegan pulled this one on purpose. Frankly, anyone with dietary restrictions wanting to attend a function should never expect to be catered to. They should bring their own food, and if there are options for them provided, that is great. Agreed. I feel this was on her and my boyfriend. I've never cooked for her before, so I'm not sure why she was expecting me to cook this time. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband's sister it should be him she holds accountable and not me? This is going to sound kinda crazy, but here goes. I, a 40 female, had a son last year, and I spent the whole time not knowing I was pregnant. My husband and I have tried to have baby for 6 years to no avail. I was diagnosed with endo and PCOS, which we were told would make it incredibly difficult. We tried fertility medication, and it didn't help. After 6 years, we were just too broken by it all, that we took a break and then decided we just needed to focus on being child-free and happy. It was tough, and for years I was so unhappy. But I longed to have a baby of my own, and knew it wouldn't be fair to adopt when I was so hung up on that connection. It was June of last year when my son was born. A week before, I started getting terrible back pains, followed by cramping and vomiting. My husband brought me to the hospital on the advice of our doctor, and that's when we were told I was giving birth. My stomach was flat, and I had no cravings, felt no movement. I ended up needing a C-section because where he was made it difficult for him to come out without harm to both of us. I'm summing it up because my birth story would not fit the character limit. We were in shock. But considering my son was healthy and I recovered well within the first week, we got lucky. Everyone was stunned. Family, friends, us most of all. Anyway, now on to the point. Everyone was just so happy for us and seemed to celebrate the fact that we had our own surprise baby. But a couple of weeks ago at my husband's parents' house, my husband's sister straight up said she believed I knew and didn't tell her, and how pissed she was at me for keeping it to myself. My husband told her she was being ridiculous. She told me I owed it to her to tell her she was becoming an aunt. Then I asked her why she was blaming me instead of my husband. She said that I didn't tell him either. I told her I would have told my husband had I known. And if she honestly believes I knew all along, then he would have known too. And she should direct her anger and accountability at him because I didn't owe it to her to tell her. He would be the one to owe her that in a sense. She is claiming I made it sound like she's nothing. But she's only my in-law. She is his sister is the way I look at it. So it should be more on him than me for playing this weird blame game she wants to play. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She is making this about her when it's not. Tell her to Google cryptic pregnancies and shut the hell up. Not the a-hole. But to be honest, just don't play into this weird freaking breakdown she's having. Don't entertain it at all. You're right that OP shouldn't entertain crazy sister-in-law's theory. If you're going to be mad at someone, be mad at your brother is such a weird reaction. Not the a-hole. You had a surprise baby. While not common, it does happen. Next time she brings it up, blame her for not telling you that you were pregnant. She'll be all like, what? That doesn't even make any sense. Exactly. We didn't know as much as you didn't know. You owe it to her to tell her she's becoming an aunt. Would have been nice to know you were becoming a mom too. Lol. Congratulations on your new baby. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother out when he came to see his wife? I, female 26, have 2 sisters and 1 brother. He's 7 years older. I don't have a good relationship with him because of what he did to our younger sister. My younger sister left when she was 18 and I haven't seen her ever since. However, I have a good relationship with his wife. She's a very nice and generous young lady. I don't get involved in her issues with my brother, and I don't judge her for being with him, although he has issues. The two have their share of arguments. His wife had issues and miscarried twice before. She got pregnant again and made it to her 2nd trimester. My brother was happy and looked at ease and calmer than usual. This was the family's first baby boy, as my older sister has 1 daughter. Unfortunately, his wife miscarried on her 5th month. It was devastating for her, but my brother argued with her for days and told the family it was her fault for working, which is wrong. She came to my house last Tuesday with her bags, asking if she could stay for a few days because she got into an argument with my brother. She was a mess, she lost weight, she was crying and was too tired to do anything. I cooked for her, and I made arrangement with a therapist to help her. She doesn't reply to my brother's calls and texts, and she says she doesn't want to see him for now for her health. She repeatedly asked me to respect her wish and not pressure her to see him, but I'd never do that. He came to my house wanting to see her. I told him I'm no contact with him, so he has no right to come inside. He said he was there for his wife. I told him she didn't want to talk to him. He lashed out, telling me to mind my business and not get involved. I told him she said that, and he said I lied. He demanded I let him come in, but I refused. We started arguing and his voice was getting loud because he was yelling at me and calling me names. I got so mad. I told him to leave or I'll call the police. He left. Then when my mom heard, she berated me along with my sister and the rest of the family, saying it's not my business to get involved between my brother and his wife, much less try to drive a wedge between them. They said I had no right to stop him from seeing his wife, and that I was in my sister-in-law's ear bad-mouthing my brother out of hate and pettiness. I told them I'm just trying to help out and support my sister-in-law, but they said that I'm being harsh on my brother and punishing him for years because of something my younger sister did. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your sister-in-law said she didn't want to talk to him. You respected her wishes. He sounds like an absolute a-hole, and you should absolutely call the police if he comes back. The rest of your family sounds like a-holes too, and you should be within your rights to go low or no contact. I completely agree. I feel like sister-in-law went to OP because she knew her wishes would be respected. What did he do to your sister? Your family needs to get their noses out of it, and your brother needs to learn not to be a massive a-hole and respect your sister-in-law's boundaries. My younger sister left when she was 19. He always tried to control her life. She got pregnant 2 years before and he treated her poorly. He demanded she get a termination, even drove her to the clinic himself to get her to fix her mistake. No one helped. I got into an argument with him after she left home, and I cut contact with him. I don't know where my sister is now. She only reached out once, but my brother lied to her and told her we all disowned her, and we didn't even know until months later. I miss her so much, and I want to tell her I'm sorry. My family didn't like that I cut contact with my brother. They said I can't punish my brother for something my sister did. Not an a-hole. No offense, but your brother is an egomaniac who should not be having kids, let alone be married. He made it your business when he drove her away to seek support. You were not interfering with their marriage. She came to you. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister she needs to contain her kids or leave our home? I, 26 female, live with my partner, 27 male. His grandmother, 82 female, gifted him the house, and the three of us live together. She's blind, and we help her out, though she's fairly self-sufficient still. My sister has 2 children, 8 and 5. Her husband suffers from early onset dementia and was moved into a care facility shortly before the first lockdown happened in my country. While fortunately we do have universal health care, still the combination of the cost of the care facility and not having a second wage made my sister unable to stay in their old home. I talked with my boyfriend, and as the house is quite large, we said she could temporarily stay with us, especially as it's been hell trying to find new accommodation now. However, we do feel she's starting to outstay her welcome. The main issue is, she's letting the kids run loose everywhere. You have to understand that this house is pretty big. We're letting them stay downstairs. They have a bedroom, a study, a small living room / kitchenette, a toilet, and a shower. It's essentially a small fully functional apartment. The floor above it has a bigger kitchen / living room / dining room, where they're also sometimes welcome for common meals. Upstairs is me and boyfriend's room, boyfriend's grandma's room, another bathroom, and a study. Work-wise, my boyfriend currently works fully remotely, and I work part-time and part-time study, also all remotely. We both need room / space. When we are both in Zoom calls, generally one of us takes the upstairs study and one the living room on the middle floor. Grandma will often also be there. She's quite a low-maintenance person, and it's perfectly possibly okay to work while she's listening to audiobooks and headphones or she's cooking. Yes, she still does. Now, I have told my sister that they need to stay downstairs while we are working. I think they have plenty of space. Yet, the kids keep coming upstairs for whatever reason regularly while one of us is working. They also keep toys lying around, and Grandma's already stepped on them a few times, hurting herself. My sister will also do things like use things from our fridge, which would be okay, but she doesn't restock. I found out that one day when I was out shopping, one of the kids had been in our bedroom, as some of my drawers had been rummaged through. My partner was also really not happy that the kids had been in our room unsupervised. To me, this was the last straw. I feel like we have been super hospitable, but she's taken over the whole house, not keeping the kids under control when we are working, and disrespecting our hospitality. I told her this is the last warning, and that if she keeps doing this, we will ask her to leave. She was in tears, saying I was mean, that my nephew and niece are just being kids, that she can't move now. But I'm tired of it. I feel like a stranger in our home. Am I the a-hole for setting this ultimatum? Now for the top comments. She was in tears, saying I was mean, that my nephew and niece are just being kids, that she can't move now. 1. You're not mean for standing your ground. You and your boyfriend / his grandma are being more than accommodating. 2. Just being kids is the worst excuse for letting your kids do whatever they want. Your sister needs to step up and be a parent. 3. She sure can move now, and she will, if she doesn't heed your final warning. Not an a-hole. Agreed. Let me add on and say that OP is a saint for what they are doing. And their sister really needs to show some appreciation when in fact she's doing the opposite. Not an a-hole. Not an a-hole. Your sister is allowing her children to endanger the safety and health of an 82-year-old woman who is the reason you and your partner had the ability to generously offer her a place to stay. That alone is reason enough to kick her out. If my daughter could learn at 3 years old not to leave toys laying around when we visited a blind friend down the street, kids who are 5 and 8 can learn that common decency as well. The problem is that your sister refuses to use the word no with them, and it's going to make her homeless. Not a a-hole. I was thinking the same thing about the grandmother. It's one thing if they get a little loud, but putting the grandmother at risk for a serious injury is too much. My sons are all grown now, but when they were younger and we were in someone else's home, acting like out-of-control brats was a huge nope. Acting that way anywhere was a big nope. I don't know what I would have done had they endangered someone's health and well-being. If the sister can't get her kids to behave, at an age they are perfectly capable of knowing right from wrong, it's time for them to get their own place. Not an a-hole. You are a saint for letting her stay as long as she has, I'm assuming rent-free, and she can't follow your short list of demands? I don't think it's unreasonable to ask her to not invade your personal spaces, stay in their living area during your work time, not raid your fridge unless she contributes to what goes into it. She is taking advantage of you and your kindness. Don't let her push you around. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not telling my wife that I had agreed to be a guardian before we even met? I have always said I didn't want kids of my own. However, I became very close with my niece and nephew. I babysat them and they've spent weekends with me. When they were little, my brother and sister-in-law asked me to be their guardian should anything happen to them. I agreed because they are truly the only kids I could see myself raising. Niece is now 11 years old and nephew is 10 years old. I got married 3 years ago and my wife felt the same as me about not having kids. She's very good to my niece and nephew. However, I never told her about what I agreed to with my brother and sister-in-law. Last year, my sister-in-law passed quite unexpectedly. It's been very hard on my brother, and my wife and I have been helping him out a lot. Last week, my brother sat us down and said he was updating his own will. He got a sizable life insurance policy from sister-in-law's death and has put most of it into trusts for the kids. He wanted us to be in charge of the trusts in the event of his passing. We agreed. Then, my brother mentioned adding my wife as guardian in the will as we never did that. My wife was confused, and I told her that before we even met, I had agreed to be the kids' guardian. She got all freaked out and started saying we agreed on no kids, this wasn't no kids, etc. This started upsetting my brother as he worried his kids wouldn't have anyone to raise them. We're literally the only options. I told my brother that I'd talk to my wife about it. She's pretty pissed that I never told her this before. I told her it shouldn't matter. Would she really let these kids be orphaned if their dad died? I said my brother dying probably isn't going to happen before they're 18. She pointed out we didn't think sister-in-law would either. She basically relented and said she'd become guardian but I'd be doing all of the work with them. I called her selfish for viewing my niece and nephew as a burden. Now we're barely talking. My friend has told me that I'm being an A and I can't be surprised at my wife's reaction. Upon further reflection, I wonder if he's right. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. You tried to strong-arm her to something she never agreed on. Here's the proper way during the dating process. OP, I do not want to have children. Future wife, great, me neither. We are a match. OP, I have this deal with my brother though. Future wife, what kind of deal? OP proceeds to explain the deal. Then, your future wife could have made an informed decision whether she stays with you. Instead, now the problem snowballed to a much bigger problem. What else is he withholding from me? Exactly. Wife's position, no kids, ever. Husband's position, 2 very specific kids at a random point in time. I mean, no kids. OP, why would your wife ever assume that you would take these kids in with the agreement your marriage is based on as no kids? You assume that, just because you had these values, that your wife would help raise these kids. But you hid these values from your wife and never even allowed her to express that she does not share these values. You failed to consider your wife's feelings on the matter. You changed the terms of your marriage that you entered into deceitfully. And you're calling her selfish? You're the a-hole. Your wife is right. This should have come up and is a deal breaker. You can decide this for yourself, but you cannot make this decision for her. Your argument is weak at best. You're the a-hole. You knew how she felt about kids. And to say it shouldn't have mattered? Really? Of course it matters to some people. I'm not saying you shouldn't have agreed to be guardian, but your wife should have had all the information. So that if she married you and you guys end up with these kids, it was a choice she knowingly made. Or maybe she wouldn't have married you if she'd known, and that should have been her choice to make. You owe her an apology, both for not telling her and for how you called her selfish and tried to play off like this was no big deal. The last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not making dinner for my husband after he was rude to our son? My son, 13, has recently got into cooking and he's amazing at it. Usually when he was experimenting or making food for just himself, he washed up. He started helping me out with meals, and 2 times a week now, he cooks dinner by himself. My husband has been insisting he wash his own dishes up, but I usually just wind up doing them. I don't particularly like feeling like I'm doing nothing. 4 nights ago, he sat me down and said I need to stop doing our son's chore. He made the mess, so he cleans it. He shouldn't be getting away with it. I replied that while it was true for small, single-person meals, it doesn't work the same for family meals. He got huffy about it, at which point I said, why does he have to wash up but I don't? At which point he got kinda quiet. He tried excusing his behavior, but each time there was a flaw, and he basically huffed off. He came back a couple hours later and said something along the lines of, we have to make him realize how hard life can be. At which point I basically told him to buzz off. Here's where I may be the a-hole. I implemented a new rule. You have to somehow be a part of dinner in order to eat it. So for example, my son makes dinner and I wash the dishes. Therefore we both get to eat it. My husband was angered by this rule, and I replied by telling him to put his rubber gloves on and get cleaning. So far, my son and I have had 3 amazing meals, and my hub has left the house to go eat elsewhere. Our funds are separate, so it doesn't affect me. My son thinks it's pretty cool. He's always much preferred me over his father, and this bonding time is really important to him. But family think I'm being way too harsh, agreeing that he should do more chores. I disagree, but no one seems to be on my side, so I come to you, dear Reddit. Am I the a-hole? He's always much preferred me over his father. You don't say. That's because his father is an a-hole. The goal of parenting is to raise a child into a functioning adult member of society. The goal is not treat children like slave labor so they learn how goddamn hard life is. There's a lot of time to learn how hard life is. He needs people to model good behavior, stand up for him, and teach him basics of how to care for himself, his belongings, and his home when he leaves. You are doing that. You had his back when his dad was being an a-hole to him. You stood for fairness, instead of letting someone come in and treat your son poorly, specifically because he's a child. You're not an a-hole, but your husband absolutely is. What gets me is that it actually is a thing that you should make your children do chores to teach them how the world works. But generally, cooking for the whole family is one of those chores, and it certainly isn't how the world works for someone to have to clean the dishes for a group meal. The dude's got something in his head, but I don't know if it's a brain or not, honestly. Not an a-hole. Your husband needs to know how hard life can be. Ah, using his words against him. I like it. Sounds like y'all have way bigger problems than dishes after a meal. Might want to get to the bottom of it and take it to relationship advice. Yeah, I'm tempted to call this an everyone sucks here. Opie's whole attitude just makes this whole thing seem like a broken home waiting to happen. I feel bad for the kid having to see his parents go at it like this. Am I the a-hole for ruining my brother's date night and having him come pick his 3-year-old son up after I dropped him off at my house right before my shift? I, male 32, have a brother, male 30, Kevin, who is a single dad to a 3-year-old. Kevin lives in the same city as me. We don't have any family or relatives here, just a few friends. Kevin has a habit of dumping his kid on me at random times to watch while he goes out on dates with women. So far, he's gone out for 4 dates while expecting me to watch my nephew. It bothered me because I have work commitments. I'm a nurse, and my schedule can be unpredictable. And so it caused me issues at work for dropping his kid off at my house without telling me first. Last week he did it again. He came over at 6 p.m. and entered my house with my nephew. He had a spare key. While I was showering, I left the house immediately. I got out of the shower and was shocked to see my nephew standing there alone. I asked where his dad was, and he said he just left. I knew he wanted me to watch my nephew, but I called him several times on the phone and he did not pick up. I was so mad and almost freaking out because I was getting late for my shift. I sent him a text telling him to come pick his son up right now, or I'd call cops on him for child abandonment. He texted back begging that I suck it up just this time because he had an important date, and he couldn't live in the middle of it. I told him that I was serious, and I'd do it, and gave him 10 minutes to get home. He got home looking pissed, and started yelling at me for ruining his dates and making him leave in the middle of it, just because I couldn't bother skip one damn shift to watch my nephew. I told him I never agreed to watch his son. It made me do it. He said that it was an emergency, which made me laugh because calling a date night emergency is just absurd. Long story short, he left with my nephew but hasn't stopped blaming me for spoiling his date and probably causing damage to the relationship between him and his potential girlfriend. It's been a week, and he's still salty about it, demanding I make it up to him and call his date and lie to her and tell her some sob story about why he had to leave like that. But I said I won't do that. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. He had an important date. He said that it was an emergency. Were they defusing a bomb together or something? I'm sorry. I just laughed so hard at this. Like, yeah, calling it an emergency is just not it, I guess. Change your locks, man. This. Brother should not have access to your home because he will keep doing this. Not stay home. Change your locks and put your brother's number on Do Not Disturb. He can hire a sitter if he wants to go out so badly. This. Change your locks. This is absolutely dangerous, and I would call CPS. How does he even have sole custody? The only reason I can think of is that the mother is completely absent. Death, abandoned the awful brother, etc. Not stay home, and you probably saved some poor young woman from having your nephew dumped on her. Your brother isn't dating. He's looking for a mommy mukbang maid. This is exactly what I was thinking. I hate when people aren't upfront about having kids and try to ambush people from dates to parenthood. Next story. Am I the a-hole for asking a colleague to mind her own business after my dad groomed my mom and reporting her to my manager for this? A bit of background. It was my mom's 53 female birthday a few weeks ago. My dad's 64 male decided to treat her to a dinner in her favorite restaurant. It's worth mentioning that my dad does not speak English, and my mom is not a native speaker either, but she's pretty fluent in it. My mom also looks significantly younger than she is due to working out, diets, and different beauty therapies, while my dad looks his age. So one of the waitresses pulled my mom aside and asked if she had been groomed by my dad. My mother thought that being groomed means being taken care of and treated, so she replied positively. After that, she couldn't understand why the waitress urged her to leave and hide and thought it's a surprise. Long story short, police got called and nearly arrested my dad until mom cleared the air, showed her passport, and said they were married for over 25 years. No hard feelings. They left a decent tip for the restaurant for doing something and laughed at the situation. More like miscommunication. Now, on Friday, I was telling this story to my work friend, and we both agreed that it was funny. One of our work colleagues, Nancy, intervened and said if she was the police officer, she would still take my dad into custody, as due to their age difference, it's clear to her that my mother was groomed by him. Just hearing that wanted me to vomit, since my parents met each other when both of them had successful careers, and my dad was working as a member of the police force himself for years and adopted me and raised me as his own daughter. I snapped and asked Nancy to mind her own business and stop making assumptions, but she carried on. I had no choice but to get the manager involved, and both of us got dismissed until Monday to wait for HR to look into the issue. Since then, Nancy posted a rant on social media and called me an a-hole for supporting grooming of women by older rich men, and some other people agreed with her. This entire situation makes me angry, but am I the a-hole for reporting her to the management? Not the a-hole. Nancy is way out of line. Take a screenshot of her rants for HR. Yes, HR needs to know how Nancy's being an awful bully on social media. Her behavior is unacceptable. I feel like this post is a great example of the term grooming being overused/misused. Even though there's an 11-year age difference between OP's parents, when they met, they were both at a place where they were stable and successful with their individual lives. there's not a gap in life experience, which is where it matters. Grooming isn't about the numerical age gap. A couple might have a 4-year age gap, that is 15 and 19, and still qualify as grooming if one partner is taking advantage of the life experience difference between them. Obviously, it's more likely if there is a big numerical gap, but it isn't everything. Not stay home. You ask her to stop. She did not. Make sure you document everything she does. Screenshot Facebook rants and anything else. IRT this issue, especially if it continues after HR talks to her. Not stay home. She almost certainly looks like a grown woman capable of making her own choices, rather than having randos concerned trolling her. Not stay home. The age difference is 11 years. I have a lot of family that have that age difference. Your coworker is sticking her nose in where it doesn't belong, and she has blown it out of context. I would also tell HR that she has put this in social media. Take a screenshot if you can for proof, as this is totally wrong. 11 years is no big deal since they were married when she was 28. Obviously, there are situations where 11 years would be grooming, but this is so not that. Thank God Nancy's not a police officer. Exactly. A 15-year-old with a 25-year-old? Definitely grooming and highly inappropriate. A 25-year-old with a 35-year-old? No big deal. Edit. It seems a lot of people think that somehow my mom looks like a young teen. She isn't. I'd say she looks about middle 30s, judging by my colleagues guessing her age. She uses Botox and other therapies to keep young as her job involves meeting a lot of people, be seen by a lot of people, so she has to look presentable. Before someone else jumps on it, no, it's not prostitution or anything like that. Think more like in filming/acting. Possibly she stole her secret of being forever young from Paul Rudd or Jared Leto, I don't know. Where we live, grooming in adults is recognized, but mostly in a way to push someone towards prostitution or trafficking. And to the person who said my dad was sleeping with my mom since she was 18, please seek help. They didn't even know each other until my mom was 25 and already pregnant with me. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to take pictures with my stepsister on her birthday? My mom was an alcoholic and cheater, and my dad divorced her when I was 8. I was not his child biologically, but he still got custody. He hired a nanny, and I didn't really see him a lot as he was always working. He remarried when I was 10, and I have a stepsister who is a year younger than me. My dad is a really engaged parent with my stepsister. My dad pretty much told me when I was 13 that the only reason he had fought for custody was because he knew mom used to drive drunk. I feel like a guest at his house, and he doesn't talk to me a lot. I have never been excluded from anything, but it always is a pity invite out of obligation. I do look a lot like mom, and I think that is why he doesn't like me. I know that I am an obligation, and I should be grateful that I am not in a foster home right now. I go to a good school. I will never have to worry about college debt. But I don't belong here, and I know that he will probably not want anything to do with me once I'm done with college. It was my stepsister's 16th birthday, and they made a huge deal out of it. My dad took time off from work. My stepmom baked a cake, and they got her things based on her favorite movies and books. It was a small party with just her uncle and aunt invited. I don't know why, but it hit me like a ton of bricks. For my birthday, I got cheap store-bought cake that I cut alone with stepmom late at night because dad was busy, and my sister couldn't be bothered to stop gaming to come down. I was really close to crying. I was so freaking jealous and hurt. I know that I am an awful baggage that really shouldn't be here, and I just didn't want to pretend anymore. They wanted to take a family photo, and my stepmom asked me to join them, but I told her that I didn't want to. They were okay with it, but my stepsister asked again, but I was really not in a mental space to take a photo with them. They took the photo without me, and my sister is very mad at me because I didn't want to take pictures with her. My stepmom is also slightly annoyed and is frosty with me. I feel guilty. I should have sucked it up and just took the photo. I was just drawing attention to myself, and I shouldn't have done that. I feel like a petulant child. Now for the comments. I want to address this first. You absolutely do not have to be blindly grateful for the situation. Well, I'm glad that he took you in to prevent you being in danger with your mother. He ultimately chose to be your parent, and is failing at that. He was failing at that when he didn't engage with you. He failed at that when he did then engage with your stepsister, showing that this isn't a biology thing. And he royally failed by telling you a supposed reason for getting custody of you. Just because things could be worse doesn't mean that you don't deserve better. Now to your question. No, you're not the a-hole. You live in a family that has made you feel like this. I know that I'm an awful baggage that really shouldn't be here, and I just didn't want to pretend anymore. You shouldn't have sucked it up. You shouldn't have to ignore the way that they treat you. I'm so sorry that you were treated this way. I only hope that when you go to college in a year, you can start making your life, the one that you want and deserve. I feel guilty as hell. I am well provided for, and every time I think about the money he's spending on me, I feel a bit sick. He doesn't really want to do it, but he has to because he was sure that Mom would have endangered me. I feel guilty that I'm willing to accept so much from someone who doesn't want me around. Taking things from people who don't want to give is so selfish, and I feel like I'm being selfish by accepting everything. You shouldn't feel guilty about your father doing his own job. It's his job as a father to provide for you, whether he wants to or not, and it's not your fault that you were born or that he was forced to take care of you. Not stay home. Oh, honey, I am so sorry. I truly understand how hurtful this is. I was the black sheep of an extremely dysfunctional family. Alcoholism, abuse. I want you to hear this, okay? Because these things get in deep and leave bad scars, and you need to know that none of any of this is your fault. There's nothing inherently wrong with you, and you deserve better. You deserve better. You are worthy. Your parents being unable to fulfill the role of loving and nurturing you is indicative of their deficiency, not yours. There's nothing petty about being hurt by this. It's hurtful. The adults responsible for helping you develop your map of the world are inadvertently teaching you that you matter less than others. Do not accept this as a reality. Without knowing them, I have a tendency to suspect that they lack the emotional intelligence to realize this themselves. It doesn't excuse it, but may be helpful to you to realize there isn't malice towards you motivating this behavior, just ignorance. You are not the home. You can get through this, and I can tell you there is a world of people out there who are going to love you so much you won't know how to handle it. You're just gonna hang on until you can strike out on your own. Thank you. I have been struggling a lot lately. I know that I am going to leave home this year, and I really had hoped that they would have warmed up to me by now, but they haven't. I know that once they sent me off to college, I will be a stranger, and it is so scary. I do have memories of good times with my dad and mom, and I know that he used to love me. I just need to go through this. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for taking my sister's money after finding out she's been using my card? For context, I, 17 male, have been on and off with working since I would mainly focus on school, but do some side gigs or do seasonal work so I can save some money to help me get my first car. My little sister's 13 female has had a money issue in the past. For a few days now, I noticed on my bank app that random transactions were on my card. Example, Apple Bill, AliExpress, and Depop. I originally thought these were late charges as I had ordered stuff from those places. But when I called my bank, they informed me these looked like recent transactions, and I had to lock my card due to fraud. The total of the amount of money that was taken out of my account was $67.39. I informed my mother about the situation, and she said she would keep an eye on everyone in the family to see who was using it. Today I had to go to in-person school and I left my wallet at home. Once again, I see another transaction of $1.05 was placed on my credit card, and I received a message from a Depop account asking for confirmation of a Squishmallow. Immediately got upset, called my mom and demanded that she gets my sister and tell her that I know that she's been using my card, and that when I get home she will have to pay me back. I got home and my sister refused to give up any money, insisting that I can't take her money, and that she would do all my chores and that I can cancel the items she ordered, but still refusing to give up any money. I got angry and went through my sister's wallet and took out the whole amount that was taken out of my card. My mom thinks that I went too far, and that I was in the wrong, and that my sister is going to have major trust issues with me, but I don't think I did anything wrong. Not stay home. Your mom is enabling your sister's bad behavior. I think it's funny that your mom is concerned about your sister having trust issues because you took the money that was owed to you, when really your sister is the one who broke your trust by using your card behind your back. OP's sister issue has nothing to do with trust. It's called theft. Mom is enabling her in a very dangerous way. Now stay home. Your mother is not doing her job as a parent. She's the one who should be making your sister pay you back and making her apologize for stealing from you. Not stay home. You're totally right. Like, how does a 13-year-old have past money issues? Seems like mom has been ignoring this behavior from the sister for a while. Not stay home. Your sister stole from you. There should be no question that she should pay everything back, and there should be other consequences as well. Literally this. I'm baffled by the mom's reaction. Edit. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone replying in this post, regardless of whether you put NTA, YTA, or ESH. Your opinions are helping me with the situation. There was something I would like to clarify now that I have the time to put it all out, as when I first made this post, it was in a fit of rage. My sister had always had a money issue growing up. During the time when my mother and father were still together, my father was the type to spoil her, giving her money and just letting her spend whatever and however she wanted. When my father left, she only started to receive any type of allowance through our mother by Chores. Regarding the card I have is under a student/teen/kid plan with my mom's bank. I have a habit of where I tend to forget my keys and wallet at home, so I do believe that's how my sister was able to grab my card information. Either way, today I locked both my debit and credit and requested to receive a new one.
Update: for those that think that they can't move on and recover, there is life after infidelity. Original post: Hey guys, been a lurker here for a while now, and have read stories of betrayal through cheating, seeing so many situations that reminded me of my old pain. But I came out of this in the end. You can too. This is my first ever post, so bear with me if I don't have everything down correctly. Here's the bulk of it. I shared this with another commenter months ago. I really should have made this into an actual post, but I didn't know if I was ready. Sorry, it's a bit long. Years ago, I was best friends with this girl, Carol. We knew each other since we were kids. Her family and mine all knew one another and were close, the kind that finish each other's sentences close. Carol and I were always there for each other. I helped her through some crazy stuff, like her mom had a health scare, but everything was okay, and she got me through a bad breakup in high school. Carol and I had some attraction to each other growing up, but we never acted on it, afraid that something could go wrong and ruin our friendship. Even though she was insanely beautiful, her and her mom and sisters, I kept everything purely platonic. But I would often notice some of her boyfriends she had were a lot like me, and she would always fight with them about comparing me to them. I always felt responsible for these breakups, and told her after her last that maybe we needed to spend more time away from one another so she could figure out what she wanted. She texted me the next day saying she wanted to talk at her house. Got nervous because I didn't know what to expect. She sat me down in her living room and told me everything, that she was in love with me and wanted more than just being friends. At first, I thought it was a joke, because when this happened it was on April's Fools, can't make this up. But then she kissed me and I was hooked. I kept thinking how dumb I was, constantly avoiding this chance that I had with her. Little did I know. Things with us was perfect. I literally felt like a king that found his queen. Our families were ecstatic, in full pre-wedding mode even though we were by now first starting college. Her dad said to me with a grin on his face, "About time." I was wondering what was taking so long. We did everything together, had a lot of good times and bad, but we always faced them and never hid anything from each other. Yup. She was really looking like the love of my life material and constantly told me how she would love me forever. I was on cloud 9 until I noticed in later months that she and my younger cousin, male 18, were hanging out a lot recently. My cousin wasn't exactly the most responsible person in the world. His dad left him when he was 8, but I always looked out for him and considered him a little brother. I noticed he would at times look at my girl the way dudes look at any girl they're on the hunt for, and calmly asked him what's going on, and he would sheepishly say nothing and walk away. I didn't pay any attention to it at the time. One night when Carol and I were chilling in my dorm watching a movie, she randomly said, "Please don't ever leave me," in a sad voice. I told her that would never happen, but all she did was give me a sad smile. After that, things started taking a turn. She grew distant and kept withdrawing from me. Even when we were intimate, as much as we loved it, it felt like it was becoming a routine to keep me happy instead of keeping us happy. This went on for about 5 months. Then by Valentine's Day, she was back to normal, all loving, fun, and full attention. I even bought her a diamond necklace with money I saved up. It was a good day, which makes what happened all the more bitter. I had plans that I was going to propose to her that night, but I had forgotten to get the ring from my dorm. After I dropped her off, I went back to my car and checked to see if it was there before I drove away to my dorm, and sure enough it was there, dropped it under the seat. As I was getting ready to go back in to surprise her, I saw my cousin drive by and park right in front of her house. My car was in the shadows, so he didn't see me, but he went to the door, Carol opened it and they were talking. He kept trying to kiss her, and she feebly told him no, but then they were in full make-out mode. She took him by the hand and they went inside, didn't even bother closing the door fully. I was livid. I actually started breathing hard and heavy. Felt like I was going to pass out. I couldn't believe what I just saw. My heart was telling me to wait before I did anything crazy, but my brain said to finish this. I got out and ran to the door, quietly going inside the house. No sooner do I go in, I hear her in the living room moaning wildly and him grunting. I was seeing red, but I stayed in control. I took out my phone, hit record, quietly walked to a corner of the living room and saw what I can never unsee. Her riding him, bouncing like some damn banshee. Once I had enough proof, I called out to her and they both freaked out. She jumped right off of him and they just looked at me speechless. Then she went into sobbing mode, claiming, "I can explain, please don't hate us." My cousin was pale, knowing I could easily beat him into oblivion. But I didn't stay around. I showed her the ring and told her, "You threw this away," and left. I got what I needed and just left them, as they chased after me putting on some clothes, trying to BS their way out of getting caught. Then came the insane text. Things like, "I'm sorry, please talk to me. It's not what you think. You don't know his story. It just happened one time. He was being a good friend. He was helping me and I couldn't tell you. Don't break us, we can fix this. You're being petty and immature." And my favorite, it didn't even last long. To finish, she tried to shift blame onto me when I didn't respond. But that all backfired for her when I exposed her. And the fallout was a nuclear mess. Her sisters, except for the youngest, tried to blame me for all of it and trick me into taking her back. But I wasn't having it. Then they told me it was going on for 5 months. Around the time I noticed them getting close, she basically kept sleeping with both of us, with no protection from him. I knew right there I was done with her. They were barely clothed when I busted them. Her in only her bra, and him in only his damn socks. It was like watching a spicy video, only in real time, and me as an unwilling audience. The sounds and things she did with him in that moment, I thought only I could get her excited like that. She claimed she always loved my body. I work out a good amount. But seeing her bouncing on his bony butt, I have to admit, made me feel insecure for a time. There was no reconciliation there. All I could think as I'm driving away from them was, what did I do wrong? I gave her everything and got rewarded with her backstabbing. When we were dating, she was on birth control. Except for one time, I usually wrap up. I was glad I did, since my prick cousin went unprotected on her and probably finished inside her. I never yelled at her, never mistreated or ignored her. If she was happy, I was happy knowing she was happy. We knew each other our whole lives, and I foolishly thought she was the one. One time we went to a tarot card reading at the mall, and the lady there told me that a great love would find me. I told her she already did, referring to Carol, but she gave my girl a funny look. That should have been one of the red flags right there. Not a day goes by when I'm not thankful I caught her. I would have married her not knowing the kind of person she really was. The aftermath, as I mentioned, was cataclysmic. After I nuked them both, her parents kept blowing up my phone demanding to know what happened, saying Carol was inconsolable. She lied, so I basically told them what happened. Her mom dropped to the floor, and her father just kept apologizing to me, saying I didn't deserve this. Sides were made in this, and a lot of friendships were broken on both of our families. Her 2 sisters, the youngest didn't know the full story at the time, along with our circle of friends, kept blowing up my phone with texts, saying I needed to talk to her. And the oldest wanted me to take her back, even coming up with some BS excuse about a mental defect she just magically happens to have, like I should be the one to rug sweep her cheating. She made the decision to cheat on me. Then they told me everything about how and when it happened. Those 5 months she would tell me that she was making up some overtime at her work, and how her co-workers would cover for her, and how nervous he got seeing me when I went to see him and my aunt. I was a trusting fool that always wants to see the best in people, and I got burned for it. Carol kept calling me constantly. In her voicemails, her voice always sounded tired and strained from her crying and saying that I shouldn't do this, that she felt like a part of her died when I left, and begged to speak to me, claiming that I swore I'd never leave her. I couldn't allow myself to hear her anymore, so I blocked her. I never responded to any of her messages. My cousin tried a few times to reach me, but I ignored him too. I never forgot the smug smile he threw when I saw him in my rearview window as I drove off. I knew if I saw him, I would want to hurt him, and I could easily do it, and he knew this. But no jail time is worth my freedom. My aunt told me that he felt guilty. Yeah, right. And told me that he did what he did because he wanted to know what it was like to be me. I was done after that. I went no contact with both of them, moved away, and never looked back. I was 22 at the time, she was 20, and he was 18. The first year was tough. I was never cheated on before, and it really messed with my head. But I had plenty of friends to help me out, and my mom and dad were a great support system. My buddies actually took me on a trip with them to France to help clear my head. It was the best thing to happen to me. Seeing the Eiffel Tower, eating some madeleines, and learning some French really helped boost my confidence up. And getting to sketch some French girl's nude really gave me that extra boost. Now I'm a 27-year-old graphic designer making good money, enjoying my life. Went on some dates but nothing concrete. Then a few months ago, one of the last people I expected contacted me. Carol's youngest sister said she got my new number from my parents and wanted to catch up with me. I was always cool with her, so we started texting and catching up. She and I really clicked. It felt new and exciting with her. Last time I saw her, she was a cute skinny kid with braces. But when she sent me a pic of her now, my jaw dropped. She was out of the world stunning. The ladies in her family were always gorgeous, but puberty took its time on her. We recently met up, and she hugged me so tight, I honestly didn't want to let her go. We started hanging out a lot, and she told me a little info about what happened after I left. Apparently, my cousin did knock up Carol that night. They decided to try something for the baby, but he cheated on her, and then she cheated on him. Things really went south for them when she gave the baby up for adoption. After that, Carol moved to LA. Don't know or care what happened to my cousin. She said she never forgave her sister for hurting me, and said that she used to have fantasies of me and her playing house. She had a crush on me and said that she always thought about me, and I was the perfect guy that her sister didn't deserve. I told her I like her too, and would like to start dating her if she'd have me. So that's where I am right now. Good job, good life, and I'm falling in love again. And I'm happy. I learned a lot from my experiences and want to share my inputs when I see posts put up, to let people know there is life after infidelity, to remind people it's never too late to start over. And more importantly, never settle for second best. It worked for me and it can work for them. Again, I'm sorry for how long it is. If you're still here, thanks for hearing me out. Now for the top comments before reading the update. What did Carol say or her parents say when you started dating the younger sister? Her folks, who I always got along with, were surprisingly supportive. Her dad's nickname for me was son-in-law, so when everyone found out about me and their youngest getting together, he said with a pat on my back, "I got my son-in-law back." He really is a chill dude. Her mom was cool with Amy being happy, but I could feel some tension with me. I think she always thought that Carol and I would work it out and get back together in the end. She's at least civil with me. Carol was angry when she found out, started talking about how she had plans to win me back, but Amy wasn't having it. From what Amy told me, it got ugly. The eldest sister actually had to step in and stop them. Carol will always be a pain in the neck for you and Amy. It's important for you and Amy to let Carol know that she's welcome to be part of your family, as long as she's supportive of your current relationship and doesn't make any advances on you. Take it slow, be deliberate, and best of luck to you. You're right about the family part. It's been so long since having to deal with her. But I don't want there to be any more conflict between Amy and Carol. I told Amy this, even suggested that maybe we should cool things off, but she said to me she wants a future with me and won't give us up. I told her I want the same, but we have to figure out how to go about this. Keep in mind, I still haven't seen Carol since our split, which is why I think Carol is going crazy. Her family are having some event at her house which I'm invited, but that means I would see Carol again. She understood if I wanted to opt out, but I can tell she wants me with her, and I want to support my girl, so we're going together. I love her too much to disappoint her. I'll be careful, and thank you. And now for the update. Well guys, I'm back with some new updates on how the confrontation with Carol went after 5 years of no contact with her. And boy, did it get messy. Amy and I went to her folks' house to an event celebrating her little cousin, a birthday. I didn't understand why she was so excited at first, but this was her favorite cousin and he taught her how to play piano, so I guess she wanted to show me off to him. The dude was pretty cool too and was a beast on those keys. The party was good and everyone was having fun, with Amy and I talking to her parents, her dad still joking about wedding dates with us. Everything was flowing well. Then through the crowd, I see the old circle with Carol as their ringleader. I was amazed to see how good she still looked. She still had that laugh I used to love and was turning to be the center of attention. I still wasn't completely ready to face her, so I turned away so that she didn't see me. A few more hours pass, the party's winding down and everyone's getting ready to leave. Amy tells me she'll be right back and goes to the bathroom, while I talk to some people that ask me about my graphic designing. A few moments pass, and all of a sudden, we all hear from her living room, Carol and Amy having the biggest shouting match in the backyard patio, even getting close to blows, all while eldest sister is trying to calm them both down. Carol starts raging on Amy about how I was stolen from her, and that Amy had no right to go after me, that sisters don't go after each other's boyfriends. Amy shot back by yelling, "Then you should have left your freaking legs closed." Carol pushes eldest sister out of the way and tried to take a swing at Amy, but Amy blocked it, and I ran in between them. I had enough of this. I had enough of seeing the girl I love and the ex, her sister that broke me, at each other's throats. This crap was ending now. I took Amy to the side, checking Amy, and yelled at Carol, "What the hell's wrong with you? This is your little sister." She finally snapped out of it, and as she looking at me, the first time in years we're seeing each other eye to eye, she says with her voice cracking, "You came." The eyes on all of us from the living room to the backyard was all kinds of tense. Their parents were so embarrassed. I felt so bad for them. Her eyes watered up, and she asked if we could talk. I knew there was no going back, so I just said yeah, but on one condition, that Amy stays here with me. She tried to argue that she wanted us alone to talk, but I said this is not how this is gonna go down. Either she stays, or I walk. It really made no difference to me. I wanted Amy to stay because I have no secrets from her. She opened up to me so much, I wasn't going to keep her out of this, not with her own family. She's part of my family now, so she deserved to be part of this. We moved to the pool area and then it started like this. Me, so, what's up? Carol, you look good. Blue is always your color. It's really good to see you. Me, not taking her bait but being polite. Thanks. What's this about? What do you want? Carol, I know I don't deserve anything from you, but I just want you to know that I thought a long time about what I did to you. You were so good to me and I messed it all up. Believe me when I say that I don't know why I did what I did. Me, that's a damn lie and you know it. Carol then starts trembling and whispers, I don't know how much you know, but your cousin and I had a daughter. I named her Annalise. I was getting angry. When we were together for those 3 years, we talked about what our first kid was going to be named. If a boy, Elkin. If a girl, Annalise. Annalise was my grandmother's name, and she adored Carol when we were little. The fact that she still names her kid after my grandmother had me seeing red for a little bit. Even Amy was surprised by this. I'm guessing Carol never told her family the baby's name before giving her away. Amy took my hand and rubbed it. We stared at each other before Carol cleared her throat, giving a nasty look at her sister. Carol, why is she still here? This is between us. Me, there is no us. Amy and I have been together for a year, and it's meant more to me than the 3 years I was with you. I love her, and I want a future with her. Amy was tearing up, smiling at me, holding my hand tight. It kinda hurt, lol. Me, whatever you say to me, you say to her. Carol, she's been obsessed with you for years. She used to write love poems and recite them to her stuffed animals, thinking you were playing house. You're not supposed to be with her, you're supposed to be with me. Me, looking at Amy, smiling. Carol, cutting us off. Look, I know you're with her just to hurt me, and I get it. Eye for an eye. You with my sister, me with your cousin, Booty. Can we just start over? I'm better now. I made a horrible mistake, and I'm so sorry. I'm human. People mess up, but I learned to be better. I can get back your trust. Let me make it up to you. Will you at least give me that? The stone's on this girl, I swear. At this point, I was done. Me, you wasted that years ago when you chose to betray me. On Valentine's Day of all days. No, you need to hear this. For those 5 years, I kept asking myself what I did wrong. Why wasn't I enough? It took some real soul searching to see that the problem wasn't falling in love with you, it was being blinded by you. I used our friendship to blind me for what you really were, and why your boyfriends before me never stuck around. You're empty, always looking for someone to fill that glass of nothingness inside you. You never figured out what you wanted, and I won't be another pouring into your glass. I honestly thought seeing you was gonna be tougher than this, but I don't feel anything for you anymore. I had plenty of time with new people, new hobbies, and new places I've been to help me heal. What we had was fun, but we're different people now. I don't see the girl I grew up with when I look at you, just someone that need to get themselves together. I found my special someone, and it's Amy. I love your sister, and I'm hoping one day we'll get married when the time's right. You want to make it up to me, be a better sister, get your act together and stop this fighting. You used to be her hero, start trying to earn those points back and go from there. Carol was in tears, shaking as if someone dropped a bomb on her. She knew right there this was over between any reconciliation she had planned. She was trying to say something, but ultimately, she shut her mouth and then shook her head to me as in accepting it, I guess. She then asked to speak to Amy alone and called over eldest sister. So, I gave them space. At the end, all the sisters cried and hugged each other. I think they finally came to some understanding. Their mom, who watched them, looked at me with tears, holding my hand, kept saying thank you to me. Their dad also thanked me, and with a big hug. This whole thing was overwhelming. When it was over, Amy broke down in my arms. She kept thanking me, said Carol gave us her blessing and that she loved me. She also asked if it was okay if she stayed with her sisters for a while at home with the family, saying they needed to finally properly catch up, to which I told her it's okay. She needs this right now. I told her when she's ready to call me. She still owes me those poems. Finally got home to type this out. God, what a day. But I feel better, truly better. Got my peace and helped my girlfriend's family start the long line to repair. Never thought I would ever get this, but I did. I can keep looking to this brighter future with shades. To all the ladies and fellas in the world and on this sub reading my story, survive my friends, survive. This might be my very last post, but again thank you so much for reading this, and again I'm sorry for the length, I didn't want to leave anything out. Honestly, that is a great ending. There is probably so much more you could have said, but in the interest of civility, I am guessing Amy and Carol will have words about her absence when she lost her husband. Obviously never be alone in the same room as her ever again. Also, would indicate you don't want Carol and Amy's bridal party when the time comes. All the very best. A part of me really wanted to tell her off and go nuclear after telling me what she named her kid. I wanted her to feel every piece of pain she caused me, but I resisted. I knew that I was in a better place now, so I had to keep it together. Yeah, Amy told me she wanted to stay at home with her sisters for a while to fix what broke between them, and a lot of that is on Carol, so they're going to have some work ahead of them. Oh, and I don't plan to with Carol, ever. It's part of the reason why I wanted Amy with us when we talked. I wanted her to see that Carol had no power over me, and that whatever she said didn't change how I felt about her. Also would indicate you don't want Carol and Amy's bridal party when the time comes. Nope, especially if she's involved in finding the entertainment. Appreciate it, my friend. That sucks because X was trippin', your cousin. She had a baby with your cousin who wanted to be you. A whole baby. Then eons later, you're mine forever. She needs help, lol. Yeah dude, the whole thing was unreal. She literally thought that her naming her kid after my grandmother with my cousin was somehow going to make things better. She watched too many Disney movies when we were kids, so I thought that maybe her brain turned to mush. Things for me are much better now. Job is good, family's good, my buddies are insane, and I've got the love of a good woman who I plan to marry. I'm just riding the wave right now, enjoying that slow ride. If something else happens, I hope you update. Carol always said how she ruined everything and that she wants you to forgive her, but at some point, she got to apologize. Do you think she's really sorry? When are you going to propose to Amy? I look forward to an update on that and Carol's reaction, lol. Did the older sister say something? Carol still called what she did a mistake. That right there told me everything I need to know. I think the only thing she's sorry for is getting caught. At this point, I just want her and Amy to patch things up. I'm waiting for some time to go by with her and her sister's healing first, before I do anything. Eldest sister mumbled a poor, I'm sorry. It's whatever, as long as she learned her lesson, which is wishful thinking. Then 1 month ago, the OP was asked for an update. How are things now? Going good. Amy and I are engaged and are getting married in the spring. Work is busy, but life has been pretty chilled.